This is this is an interesting one, right? Um, at some point, I almost picked Bryce Mitchell, and bear with me here. I understand why anyone would favor Gene Silva. Amazing striker, amazing knockout ability, very entertaining. I just get. I'm worried something that happened to Peyton Talbot will happen to Gene Silva, man. Because when you look at the fight between Gene Silva and Charles Jourdain, the fight between Gene Silva and Charles Jourdain is one of the most worrying fights for me personally, to be honest, because Charles Jourdain was able to partially take down Gene Silva, and if you compare, what do you call him? Charles Jourdain's grappling abilities and Bryce Mitchell's grappling abilities. I mean, they are significantly better, but again, different, to be honest. Um, Another issue that I have is that what do you call him? Bryce Mitchell was able to have, I don't know, I don't want to say a competitive fight, but he was able to actually have a decent amount of performance against Ilya Tuporia, who is now a champion, right? Like, who's one of the biggest stars and probably one of the most talented fighters in the UFC. And he was able to perform the way he did. And according to Bryce Mitchell, he went into the fight with Ilya Tuporia. This is not me. This is coming from Bryce Mitchell himself. I know it's excuses, but Bryce Mitchell said he went into the fight with Ilya Tuporia with what do you call it, COVID-19, right? So he says that's what affected his performance, and his performance against the Josh Emmett, according to Bryce Mitchell. I'm not saying this from my head. According to Bryce Mitchell, the fight between Josh Emmett, he wasn't training at all. He wasn't in camp. He just got off the couch, and just basically went in and fought. But again, Josh Emmett. So that's his explanation for his two losses. Against Ilya Tuporia, he says he had swine flu, not swine flu. Against Ilya Tuporia, he says he had COVID-19, and then against Josh Emmett, he says he wasn't even training, and which to me are a little bit believable because we all know that against Josh Emmett it was a short notice thing, and against Ilya Tuporia, I can't really say if it's true or not. However, back to the point that I was trying to make, Charles Jourdain was able to take down Ilya. What do you call him? Gene Silva. Even though I think Gene Silva has good takedown defense, it's good takedown defense against who, man? Like, I don't feel like Gene Silva has ever fought any good or the level of grappler that Bryce Mitchell is, and that honestly worries me. I'm worried because I don't feel like Gene Silva has ever been tested. Gene Silva's grappling abilities have ever been tested properly, right? But the only thing that makes me feel a little bit better about this particular fight is that Gene Silva is training from one of the best gyms in MMA right now, and I mean he has people like Caio Boralho, who was training with Hamza Chimaev at one point in his career, and I'm sure that Caio Boralho has been working on his grappling abilities and takedown defense because he's trained with Hamza Chimaev before. So I'm sure he's been implementing some of the defenses in anticipation that he's going to eventually be fighting Hamza Chimaev because Hamza is next up for the belt. If Hamza Chimaev gets the belt, then obviously Hamza is the champion and Kayo will have to fight him. If Hamza somehow doesn't get the belt, of which I doubt, he's going to be a decent contender for anyone to fight. So I'm sure Caio Boralho is preparing to actually eventually fight Hamza Chimaev, and the preparation includes a takedown defense. And I'm sure this is going to apply to every single person who's training in that particular gym. All right. But I'm still worried. I had so much confidence in Peyton Talbot, and he actually ended up disappointing all of us. So I'm worried that the same thing might happen to Jin Silva. Um, because Bryce Mitchell is an incredible, not too incredible, but let me just leave it at incredible grappler. So I could see a situation where he out grapples Gene Silva and avoids the striking exchanges, right? But if Bryce Mitchell, but again, if Gene Silva is able to avoid getting taken down, which is going to be challenging because people like, was it Dan Ige or Rob Font? I can't remember who Bryce Mitchell was fighting. He had good take. I think it was Danny Ige, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let me actually check. Give me a bit of a moment to actually check, because the person that he was fighting had good takedown defense. Yes, it was Dan Ige. Yes, I was right. It was Dan Ige. He didn't disappoint the Frank Ocean. What do you mean? So so what I'm trying to say is Dan Ige has good takedown defense, and Bryce Mitchell was able to be relentless with his shots. Right, he shot multiple times, and he eventually made it like a bloodbath, and it was gritty. It was incredibly amazing. So for me, I also felt like this fight could go either way. Despite the fact that my subscribers and I have picked Gene Silva, I think when you look at the fight between Bryce Mitchell and Dan Ige, it tells you how good Bryce Mitchell is at taking people down, because Dan Ige is not very easy to take down, and Bryce Mitchell found a way to actually get that one done, right? So if what do you call him? If Gene Silva's takedown defense is on the level of Dan Ige, it's still not good enough, right? Maybe it might be good enough because of Gene Silva's knockout abilities. Maybe it'll make Bryce Mitchell a little bit more hesitant to actually do a couple of things that he was able to do against Danny Ige, because Danny Ige, even though he has knockout power, it's not Gene Silva knockout power, you know? So maybe he will be a little bit more apprehensive when he's trying to actually get the fight to the ground. But am still worried about Jin Silva in this particular fight. I'm picking Jin Silva. I'm going with. I'm going to trust this ability to actually defend the takedowns. I'm not very confident in that. I'm going to bank on his ability to actually knock out Bryce Mitchell, which I think is possible. Um, I'm basing this off of the fact that he's training with amazingly good coaches. So I can see a situation where Gene Silva is prepared enough for this particular fight, and is able to avoid getting taken down and somehow finds a knockout shot against Bryce Mitchell. But I will say this again. This is a risky fight. It could go either way, right? It's one of those fights that could potentially go to anyone. It depends on the first round will determine who is going to win the fight. Either Jin Silva is going to get a knockout, or Bryce Mitchell is going to find a way to get the fight to the ground. And if it gets past the first round, I think Bryce Mitchell is going to win the fight. If somehow this fight gets out of the first round, I think Bryce Mitchell is going to win the fight, unless it gets out of. But either way, even if it gets out of the first round, because Bryce Mitchell knows how to finds a way to actually be defensively good as far as striking, it's not good, because that means Bryce Mitchell can strike with Gene Silva and actually take him down eventually when Gene Silva is tired. And I hate to say this, but the Brazilians lately have not been showing good takedown defense. Look at Joe Anderson Brito. Look at who's the guy. Um, I forgot his name. There are a couple of on the previous card. They had horrible takedown defense, and which is something that I'm starting to realize. I'm starting to people like Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is good at submissions, but he has horrible takedown defense. Gilbert Burns has horrible takedown. Like there's so many people that I'm starting to now realize that okay, these guys have horrible takedown defense for some reason, and they are okay spinning around on the ground like Kron Gracie, another Brazilian who has horrible takedown defense. Bryce Mitchell was able to do whatever he wanted with him. Um, okay, I'll respond to that, Twizzy. So Yeah, officially my subscribers and I are going with Jane Silva, but I can see a situation where Bryce Mitchell actually wins this fight. I'm worried for Jane Silva. Yeah, let me respond to your comments so that I can bounce. They are together, Peyton and Frank Ocean. What? Peyton and Frank Ocean are dating. Okay, I'm sorry for that face. Twizy Rich, I think Burns has pretty good takedown defense. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think a lot of people are afraid to grapple with Gilbert Burns. I don't feel like it's because he has good takedown defense. I think it's because of his submission abilities. But I guess maybe I could be wrong. Brady is just really good. I think he can outgrapple Morales. Hmm. Okay, I guess we'll see. That's an interesting point of view. I think maybe that's actually possible. I think that's actually possible because when you look at the fight between Jake Matthews and Michael Morales, is it Jake Matthews? Yeah, I think it's Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews was able to take down Michael Morales, if I'm not mistaken. So I think yeah, Sean Brady should be able to do the same thing probably. Um, Burns can gone freezes. Shut up! You're on my channel, dude. Like, why should I shut up? Like, you're on my channel. Um, yes, when he beat Veretenikov, he needed to grapple, and Vanderford really exposed the Veterenikov. Yeah, I agree with that. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow, man. I'm going to bounce now. We'll talk tomorrow. I appreciate you for joining me for all the streams. Tweezy, thank you. Ciao. Deuces.